Welcome to the 700 Club. DirecTV has given the cable news channel Newsmax the boot. The move has sparked accusations that conservative voices in the media are once again being shut down.
It's not just grassroots activists raising the alarm. The issue's also getting attention on Capitol Hill. CBN's chief political analyst David Brody explains.
13 million households just like that, blink of an eye, can't watch Newsmax anymore.
The ouster comes as Newsmax has grown to become the fourth highest rated cable news channel in the United States. And it's not the first time. It comes a year after DirecTV dropped conservative One America News. Chris Ruddy is Newsmax CEO.
We were targeted because we're conservatives, and they eliminated us and One America last year because they wanted to remove conservative viewpoints and close them down.
DirecTV said in a statement, quote, "On multiple occasions, we made it clear to Newsmax that we wanted to continue to offer the network, but ultimately Newsmax's demands for rate increases would have led to significantly higher costs that we would have to pass on to our broad customer base." Ruddy says that's patently false and claims by taking away 13 million fewer homes, it's all about putting Newsmax out of business.
David, there are 22 liberal news channels that DirecTV still continues to carry on their system. All of those channels get fees. All of those channels get fees more than Newsmax was asking, and most of the channels have much lower ratings.
While DirecTV added The First, a conservative commentary outlet featuring Bill O'Reilly, Capitol Hill Republicans still want answers.
You're going to see action taken because we believe it's responsible to allow everybody to have choice of what news they can want to listen to, what they want to hear. It really comes down to a free speech matter.
And GOP senators sent a letter this week to AT&T, the parent company of DirecTV, demanding a response to 18 detailed requests, including, quote, "Did DirecTV directly or indirectly consult or engage in any communication with any federal, state, or local government officials regarding the decisions to drop Newsmax?" That's a relevant question considering how House Democrats sent a letter to cable and satellite providers back in 2021, pressuring them to stop carrying Newsmax and others, saying, quote, "Some purported news outlets have long been misinformation rumor mills. Misinformation on TV has led to our current polluted information environment that radicalizes individuals to commit seditious acts and rejects public health best practices." Some lawmakers see this as a covert my way or the highway push by liberal politicians.
Will the Weather Channel be canceled next if they refuse to bow to the left's altar of climate change?
Troy Miller, president of the National Religious Broadcasters, says Newsmax also often carries a faith-friendly message, so something smells fishy.
We just see this more and more, the weaponizing of government, and so we're asking, is that what happened with Newsmax here? What's going on behind the scenes?
Beyond that, Miller calls on Christians to look deeper into what's happening.
Christians have to realize what's going on here is a real clash of worldviews. It's time for Christians to step up and take back this media landscape. I think that the secular, left, really leaning socialist kind of worldview realizes if it doesn't silence the church, the Christian worldview, then they're never going to win. And so I think we're right in the crosshairs.
Newsmax knows that feeling and isn't giving up the fight.
I think there's a lot at stake because if they can get away with closing down one of the highest rated cable news channels, what else are they going to do?
David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Well, clearly the Democrats acted last year, and clearly they wrote a letter asking cable outlets, asking DirecTV to try to muzzle voices and muzzle free speech, all doing it on the basis of what happened on January 6th and their view of the vaccine and how to prevent the pandemic. But it's against democratic principles. It's certainly against free speech. Free speech is fundamental to our culture. And in the idea of free speech, even speech you strongly disagree with should have access to the public square. It's in the competition of ideas that the best ideas always emerge. In this particular case, there's also an economic thing going on. For years, CNN made more money than Fox News, even though Fox News was outrating CNN and charging higher advertising rates. The reason is CNN was one of the first cable news networks in existence, and all the cable systems paid CNN for the privilege of carrying CNN, and that's what built that company. When Fox came along, Fox had to pay for access, and so it was a different economic model. And that's sort of playing out in this. CBN News tried to get on DirecTV. They quoted us as such a high fee to do that. We said, no, well, that's a go-away number. There's no way we could make that ever work. So hats off to Chris Ruddy. He's built it from scratch. He's built it in a very competitive environment. He's built it in a declining cable universe, and here he is, number 4. Congratulations. In other news, China says it's investigating reports that a Chinese spy balloon has been flying over the United States. Ephraim Graham has that story and more from the CBN newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, China says it has no intention of violating the territory and airspace of any sovereign country. That comment comes after a senior defense official told Pentagon reporters the U.S. has very high confidence the object was a Chinese high-altitude balloon and was flying over sensitive sites to collect information. U.S. officials say the balloon is unmanned, the size of about 3 buses, with a technology bay suspended below. One of the places the balloon was spotted was over the state of Montana, which is home to one of America's 3 nuclear missile silo fields.
Our intercontinental ballistic missiles, the Minuteman III, that have silos right here in the United States.
The balloon sighting comes just days before Secretary of State Antony Blinken is scheduled to travel to China.
They want the Americans to see that they do have the capabilities to put sensitive military collection devices like these over the continental United States.
The incident also comes as tensions with China are particularly high over issues ranging from Taiwan to human rights in China. Turning now to a major weather trend, dangerously cold temperatures and wind chills are coming to the Northeast. Today, several states are bracing for what could be the coldest Arctic blast in years. CBN's Brody Carter has the story.
New Hampshire, the governor warning the brutal cold is expected to bring severe wind chills.
At negative 30 degrees, hypothermia can set in just 10 minutes, and we know it's going to be even colder than that across the entire state.
From Montana to the North Atlantic coast, several states are prepping for what could be an unprecedented cold spell over the next 36 to 48 hours. Single-digit temperatures are expected, states like New Hampshire and Maine expecting deadly temperatures.
But with the wind chill forecasts really predicted to go below negative 40 degrees in terms of wind chill, virtually all across the state.
In some places, the wind chill is forecast to be even worse, at minus 60, and people across the affected areas are getting ready.
I get my coat on, and then my gloves are in my bag, and I have my hat, and I just bundle up as much as possible.
Nearly 70 million people across the country are either under a cold, ice, or flood alert.
I'm not going to preach this, trust me. I got more than enough blankets in that tent right there.
In Portland, Maine, street teams are telling the homeless about warming shelters, but some refuse to heed caution.
Because I'm going to stay here and make sure not only myself, but my neighbors all stay warm.
The warnings for the north come after ice, sleet, and snow hit the south, turning some Texas roads into a sheet of ice.
We slid on some black ice. Just stay home. Stay safe.
Hundreds of thousands of customers are still without power from Tennessee to Texas.
We do not have an estimated time for restoration.
And a travel nightmare for many is taking shape into the weekend, with more than 700 flights canceled. And it's been tough for many of those staying at home.
It was 29 last night.
Inside the home.
Inside the home.
It gets cold, but we have covers.
As Texas begins to thaw out of its multi-day ice storm, Punxsutawney Phil adding insult to injury with his forecast.
I see that everyone knows their part, and I am merely the sage. But above all else, I see a shadow on my stage. And so, no matter how you measure, it's 6 more weeks of winter weather.
The good news is, although the cold front is expected to last throughout the weekend, it's expected to end, leading to above-average temperatures next week. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Brody, thank you. Thursday marked the 71st annual National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C. It's a tradition that calls on members from both sides of the aisle to set aside their differences and unite for a morning of prayer. This year, the breakfast returned to its roots, a smaller event held on Capitol Hill with only lawmakers in attendance. There, they were encouraged to pray for wisdom and call for unity.
What a powerful message it would be to the world if we walked together, put compassion over callousness, cooperation over competition, and at the end of it go and do likewise.
Everyone who humbles themselves and comes to God and says, God, help me. God has given his word. I will never, ever turn you away. I will give you the very thing that you need. If anyone needed to pray for wisdom, isn't it you folks every single day, every single hour?
Great prayer for our leaders and us all. Gordon?
It's wonderful to see Congress come together and pray. And I think the hope for us in the future is if Christians who are Democrats and Christians who are Republicans can come together and say, how can we jointly solve our problems? Let's not make political footballs out of this. Let's get together and say, we've got some real problems. How do we solve them? How do we come together? It's in that unity that God will command the blessing.